Welcome back. This channel exists for one clear reason: to help you stay grounded in real updates around the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, and the wider currency space. We focus on facts, verified developments, and clear explanations so you can follow what actually matters without confusion or hype. Today's update centers on an important shift inside Iraq's financial and legislative system. It is not a rumor or a headline pulled out of context. It is a real policy step that could shape how the country manages its money, its obligations, and its future direction. This development is drawing attention because it connects government planning, currency stability, and long-term economic confidence. On January 5, 2026, Iraq's parliament completed the second reading of an amendment to the federal budget law. This amendment directly affects the multi-year budget framework covering 2024 through 2026. That matters because budgets are not just numbers on paper. They show priorities, discipline, and intent. By moving this amendment forward, lawmakers are signaling a push toward structured financial planning instead of short-term fixes. A multi-year budget gives the government the ability to plan beyond immediate pressures. It allows ministries to allocate funds with more certainty and helps avoid constant disruption when market conditions shift. One of the clearest priorities in this framework is the protection of public sector salaries and essential operating costs. For millions of Iraqi families, government wages are not optional income, they are the foundation of daily life. Making these payments predictable reduces stress across society and supports basic economic stability. This step also limits the risk of sudden funding gaps caused by oil price swings or political delays. When salaries and operating costs are locked into law, the government gains breathing room to manage other challenges without triggering social pressure. Another key aspect of this update is the level of coordination between the Ministry of Finance and the Parliamentary Finance Committee. That alignment is not cosmetic. It reflects a shift away from crisis-driven budgeting toward planning with a longer view. Multi-year planning allows Iraq to move forward with infrastructure projects, public services, and reforms that require steady funding over time. Roads, ports, power systems, and digital upgrades do not work on annual uncertainty. They need continuity. For international observers, this type of budgeting sends a signal. It shows intent to manage resources responsibly and reduce fiscal chaos. Foreign institutions and investors look for exactly this kind of structure before committing long-term capital. This brings us to the exchange rate, which remains one of the most discussed topics. The Iraqi dinar has stayed near 1310 per dollar for more than a year. That level has provided a stable anchor during a period of reform and adjustment. Despite constant speculation online, the Central Bank of Iraq has held its position. This is not hesitation, it is caution. Changing a currency rate too early can damage purchasing power, raise prices, and weaken public trust. Economists following Iraq often point to specific conditions that must be met before any adjustment is even considered. These include tighter fiscal discipline, stronger reserves, better market control, and a more modern banking system. Any future currency decision would likely come as part of a broader reform package. That would include banking upgrades, compliance improvements, and clearer cross-border transaction rules. Until those foundations are solid, stability remains the safer option. There is also frequent confusion around so-called contract exchange rates. These are often misunderstood and exaggerated. In reality, such rates are tied to rare historical agreements that do not apply to the public. The only rate that matters for individuals and businesses is the official rate set by the Central Bank of Iraq. It is enforced through licensed banks and exists to prevent abuse, fraud, and market distortion. Belief in secret or special rates can lead people into poor decisions or scams. The safest path is always reliance on official statements and documented policy. Another major challenge addressed in the amended budget is public debt. Years of conflict, rebuilding costs, and oil price swings have created a complex debt situation. Managing it carefully is critical, High debt limits a government's flexibility. Too much money goes toward interest instead of services. By tightening debt management, Iraq aims to protect itself from future liquidity shocks and improve its credit profile. Better debt control also helps attract funding on better terms. When lenders see discipline, confidence improves. That confidence directly affects long-term growth. Beyond numbers, debt management has real social impact. When debt overwhelms a budget, salaries get delayed and projects stall. Addressing this risk is about protecting public trust. The shift to a 3-year budget also supports a broader goal: reducing dependence on oil. Oil price cycles have made planning difficult for decades. Diversification requires stability. A predictable budget helps encourage private investment, infrastructure development, and job creation. It creates an environment where businesses can plan instead of react. For everyday citizens, success is measured simply: salaries paid on time, services delivered, power, water, healthcare, and transport that work. These reforms aim to support those outcomes. Large infrastructure projects funded through this framework are meant to do more than build assets. They are meant to create jobs and stimulate local economies during the transition period. International partnerships play a role here as well. Global institutions are providing technical support, advice, and systems that help modernize Iraq's financial management. Efforts to reduce bureaucracy and strengthen investor protections are also underway. These changes aim to integrate Iraq more fully into the global economy without sacrificing control. At the core of all this is human development. Budget reform is not abstract. It affects schools, hospitals, and opportunities for a younger generation entering the workforce. Education and health spending are long-term investments. They shape productivity, innovation, and social stability. That is why they matter as much as infrastructure. Iraq stands at a difficult but meaningful point. The challenges are real, but so is the potential. Progress will not be fast or smooth. It rarely is. What matters is direction. A move toward planning, discipline, and structure suggests leadership focused on years ahead, not headlines tomorrow. For those watching the dinar, this is a time to focus on verified progress instead of speculation. Real reform shows up in policy, systems, and consistency. No single update tells the full story. The true picture comes from cumulative change, better budgeting, stronger institutions, and steady reform. Thank you for staying with us through this update. We aim to provide context, not noise. We will continue tracking official developments and sharing what matters as it happens. Stay patient, stay informed. We will see you in the next update as Iraq's economic story continues to unfold.